We're live.
Good evening. We're now called a regular meeting. Order is now 7 o'clock. Requirements of the Sunshine Law have been met. The meeting was advertised in Burlington County Times on January 7, 2024. Electronic notice was given to the NJC 5:39-1.5. We will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence. Roll call.
Committeewoman Berkeley.
Present.
Committeeman Carr.
Here.
Committeewoman Mungo. Committeewoman Wright.
Present.
Mayor Henley.
Present.
Also present, Township Solicitor, Township Administrator Clerk, Police Chief.
Approval of minutes, March 19, 2024. Regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Berkeley?
Any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
We will now open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comment only. Where's my boy Gary?
Should we send a well check?
Send over on this chat. With no comments, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinances, first reading, 6-2024, calendar year 2024 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion for 6-24.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Do we have a motion to table 7-24? I think we need a documentation, or we need something from the CFO, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct.
That we don't currently have?
Correct.
I'd make a motion to table 7-2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Resolution 5-2024, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of the bills through for April 2nd, 2024. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Right.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
52-24, resolution approving the deferral of local school district taxes. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion for 52-24.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
53-24, resolution to introduce the 2024 municipal budget. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Right.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Certainly.
I had asked some questions and I was told to better to ask them in front of you. So I'm, if you want to follow along, I'm going by this. thing that we
In front
have.
of me or in front of?
Excuse me?
In front of me?
No, I'm just
Oh.
passing that way.
I was about to say,
Because we had not gone over it before. On the second page, and I had asked this, the construction officials' salaries and wages, there's two people in that office. I was curious why there's a $15,000 increase to that. One's a major person and one is an assistant. Could someone tell me why there's a $15,000 increase?
Mayor Henley, would you like me to answer that?
certainly.
So in the construction office, there's actually a few different salaries that pull from that salary line item. It's not just the official and the technical assistant. There are other people who are involved with the construction office that have their salaries pulled from that line item as well. The construction official and the technical assistant are both union positions, so they each get a step, plus we are anticipating a promotion for one of the individuals in the office, and the inspectors also pull from that. There's also another individual whose salary pulls from that line item.
Okay, thank you very much. Underneath the vision employee insurance, we don't offer vision insurance to our administrators?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
At the bottom, the blue part, at the bottom, vision insurance, we don't offer that to our administrators? I thought we did.
We do. It just may not be a budgeted line item.
So how are we paying for that?
I'm sorry? It hasn't appeared on our budget for several years. It's probably looped into one of the other categories. It's just not broken out on the copy that you have, but it does come out of the operating expenses.
Okay, thank you. Fire hydrant service, I was like shocked that they're increasing it 25%. I know that they had asked for an increase in January of the state, and the state has not gotten back to them. Is this their estimate that the state's going to give them what they want, or is this a permanent 25% increase for our fire hydrants? Do you know anything about that?
I do believe that number was given to us by the CFO. So he, I believe, is aware of the billing that comes through the office, and he provided me with that number.
Okay. Under Public Works, and I just think that there's a lot of increase in Public Works. I'm not going to ask you to go through it, but things like miscellaneous just doubled. And when we have a tax increase of 6.7%, I think that's a lot. I think that's increasing without the schools, without the high school, without the county. And if the schools in West Hampton are going up 2%, that's 8.7%, and all we need is 1.3% between the high school and the county, and our taxes are going up 10%. I'm just very concerned that we need to really buckle down and get what we need, not what we want, and just keep throwing money into places. It really would have helped if I could have seen in 2023 what we budgeted and then what we actually spent in that. And when I talked to the CFO, I know that's why we lowered the cost for gas, because we did not spend it last year. Things like that make sense to me. Municipal court, do we know why we're not going to be making as much money in the municipal court?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand your question.
Instead of $10,000, it was $7,000 that we anticipated making, and that might be on a different page.
Are you talking about the revenues?
Yes.
Because court revenue is down as a whole. Court fines are down because of the bail reform.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, the court revenues have been down for the last couple of years. They continue to go down because of
Correct.
the bill reform.
And now looking at this page. When it talks about miscellaneous revenues, there's nothing for 2024 in body armor or bulletproof or storm weather or recycling tonnage grant and clean communities. Are we not anticipating getting anything from them? Because usually we get something every year from them.
So we are not anticipating it on the budget because we haven't gotten notification of it coming through. If we were notified prior to the budget's completion, we would have added that as a line item. We will add that as a Chapter 159 later.
Okay, and just one up on shared services. We do the shared services for the court for East Hampton, Hainesport, and us. I know you have now Holly, which we don't do, but Hainesport was missing. So could we add what we're going to get from Hainesport to that in revenue? That might change a few pennies or something.
I'm sorry, what do you mean it was missing?
Shared services, it's on the page that looks like this. Wendy?
Okay. That was actually filled in by our auditor, so I can refer back to him with that question.
Okay.
I don't know why he did not put any revenue from the Hainesport Court. It just could be that we're not anticipating it on the budget, which really doesn't hurt us and an introduction of the budget, because even if we don't anticipate it, if we are receiving revenue, it's still going to come into the township.
Right, but we've had Hayesport for a couple of years that we've been doing, and we don't have Mount Holly yet. It's kind of there, even though there's no money there.
Right, so please keep in mind that with the municipal budget, every cent that we add to the tax rate is $120,000 in revenue. So we would have to generate $120,000 in a revenue source in order to cut a penny from the budget.
Okay, that's very helpful to know. Thank you.
Do you have any other ideas of what you want to do or what you'd like to see to order to cut some of the budget? Do you have any ideas that you want to discuss before we vote?
I just had a lot of questions. I don't know what's really needed and not needed, but I would like to see it cut so that we're not going to be raising the taxes 6.5 cents per person, per resident.
Fair enough. I think that, just my opinion as a committee, we'd want to, or as a committee or individually, if we want to cut, then along with that comes a plan in order to cut it. Like us saying that we want to cut it, listen, I agree with you, Committeewoman Berkeley, like I'd rather it not go up 6.7% either. But in all fairness, we clearly, we talked about, and not to point you out, but you one of many who pointed to the sign behind us that we want to be able to keep, as much open space as possible. But with a growing town, right, and you keep as much open space as possible with no construction at all, we had over $500,000 in construction fees last year, and now we're down to $72,000. So we're missing $500,000 on something as simple as that. I'm not saying that everything is appropriate in what we do, but you got to remember that 85% of our budget is based upon the people who work here and their salaries, right? And so if we never do anything to generate any volume of any income coming in, then eventually the taxes have to go up, because that's the only way you can continue to build and to fix the things that are here and to continue to keep the people who are here. Not to mention that we've cut a multitude of salaries by people who have retired and then utilizing our shared service, which has also come under criticism. But the shared service, there's shared service positions that have been cut over $35,000. Anybody that we've hired to take the place of other people, there's nobody that makes the same amount. They're all considerably less than the people who are currently working, because they're coming as an entry-level position and they have to grow in those positions. So on my end, that has always been my plan, to make sure that we try to keep the taxes as stable as possible. But the other end of that is that eventually we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to build. We're going to have to do something to generate more taxes, more income. Empty land doesn't pay taxes, right? So that's going to be an issue. I think West Hampton's with 11 square feet, 11 miles of square feet, 10?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that 7 of those miles is open space.
Do we have any anticipation of new taxes coming from the new apartment and townhouses?
I'm glad you asked that, because when we were going over the budget, one of the things that I asked when we were talking about generating a number, and I sat with our administrator and talked about it, I called Todd Saylor and had Todd Saylor talk to our tax assessor, and they said that we can probably count on generating about $400,000 of taxes next year from our new development. So in all, that new development that, has been critical at some point or another, is going to generate over $1 million for this township, or close to $1 million, $900,000, and it'll be $400,000 year after year. And as it continues, and obviously all the tax revenue won't come from there next year, because you still have building and you have some places that are empty. So I mean, I just think, like, food for thought. Like, we continue to talk about planning ahead. And that's a part of planning ahead. There's some things that we're not going to be able to get out of the way of, or they're going to suck us up. And I think that if we go back to the tapes, one of the things that I did say was that you're going to generate a tax revenue where people won't be able to stay here anymore. We can lose good people, right, in our township by saying that we want everything to be open space. It just doesn't work like that. And as time goes on, that's what's going to happen. I can pay, but that is not just about me. It's about the town as a whole. You know what I'm
I
saying?
did text or email our administrator with a suggestion about personnel, because we have hired people at a higher salary than the person that is left, and we need to.
Who? I mean, you can't say who, but which department?
Administration, and court.
I don't know about that. I know that you had a question about one individual, but I think that you got to talk to who that person reports to know. Like, it's easy to say. So first of all,
And
it's very irresponsible. It would be very irresponsible of this town to hire someone 3 months and lay them off, when that person could have a family, that person could have left a job, that person could have done anything to come and trust in this township, and then the discussion is that we walk away from that position. I think that's extremely irresponsible. If it's not irresponsible of our staff, it's irresponsible of our committee to allow that to happen,
I understand.
right? And I'll shoulder that blame as much as any of the other 5 people or the other 4 people who are up here. But with that being said, I think you have to talk to the person that person reports to and ask them how they're doing with their job. Now, I will say that I do that often to check to see, and I can tell you that person worked 57 hours last week. I don't think that's a person we want to walk away from when they're getting paid for 40 hours.
Did that person submit overtime?
Did not submit overtime because it's not a position that receives overtime. And that person worked at least 57 hours. So I think that if we're going to look at cutting personnel, which I don't agree with, and I'll go on the record saying I don't agree with it, then we have to look at strategically the right personnel. But you also got to remember that we utilize shared service quite often, and we've cut a lot of costs doing that. I think that the plan needs to be how we generate more income for this township responsibly, and how we still continue to make it comfortable for our residents to live here. That's just my 2 cents. But obviously, it's something that we all got to work with together. Fair enough?
Mayor Henley?
Yes,
Last
ma'am.
comment, if I may?
Yes.
So the budget process is actually a year-long process. After we pass the current budget, I already begin working on next year's budget, just to project what we're looking at and where those numbers are going to come in as the year goes by. Now, when I meet with the department heads for their quote-unquote wish list items, and they can back me up on this, I tell them that they need to come in as conservatively as possible. A lot of the items that we are requesting are necessary for us to be able to do business and be able to provide for the residents. But this year especially, we are working with an extremely high rate of inflation, which is driving up costs everywhere.
And if I could say, one of the other things, we looked at, we also have to plan in advance, right? Like, one of the things that we've been critical of, and I've always said that we need to learn from the mistakes of the past. And listen, that's why I tend to try to have as many conversations as I possibly can with the people of the past who work here, who've been elected, et cetera, to try to make sure we don't duplicate anything, that we move forward. And one of the things that they always said is that we need to plan going forward with the personnel. Like, we need people here while the other people are still here who are going to retire, to be able to tell them basically what the town is about, to be able to establish the flavor of the town, so that these people, even if they don't live in West Hampton, they understand how West Hampton works. And I think that we're also trying to do that with a retirement position that's coming up. And basically, I think, and I always say about having a conversation with the people who work here, right? Like, this person told me that 6 days or 6 hours out of their week is about doing the payroll. So we've looked at outside sources for doing the payroll, and to be honest, we've gone back and forth as hard as we possibly can to make sure we get that number down, and we're going to save probably at least $40,000 off of that, as well as the person's time, whoever they decide to hire who comes in here in that new position. So again, I think that when we're talking about raising the taxes, I think that if that happens this time, right, and it's happened before, but never this high, that we have to have a plan going forward to be able to make our residents comfortable, to be able to keep the flavor of the town, to be able to keep the established people who are working here, but also we want to create a happy environment and a satisfactory work environment. And all those things tie in to everything that we can possibly do for them. And again, that's my 2 cents. So, if you have anything else before you vote?
No, like I said, sometimes there's a bunch of things grouped in a thing, and I can't.
No, I think that you're 1,000% correct. Listen, when I first started, we would look at that thing, I would look at that thing and it looked like, everything's bunched together and not being able to understand it. And in fact, I may look at the paper, but I really learn better by having conversations and asking questions and then just talking to everybody about what their department looks like and then trying to figure out a way that I can introduce it to you guys to maybe, looking at how to make this township run as smooth as possible. But I understand that it does look jogged up, it looks confusing, and you're 1,000% correct with that, so I do not disagree. With that being said, roll call.
Berkeley?
No?
Carr?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 310.
Consent agenda resolution no.
Excuse me, Mayor, did we skip one of the ordinances?
I don't think so.
The bond ordinance?
Oh, we tabled it. We voted on tabling
I
it.
thought that was the COLA we tabled,
No,
because you said we didn't have it.
we tabled it. You voted on it.
Okay, well, I remember getting a note that says we're going to have a COLA ordinance, but
We tabled it. Remember I said that we didn't receive the documentation that we needed from the CFO? And
Okay.
we tabled it. And
I thought you were talking about the COLA.
Nah, no worries. Now I gotta start to read all over again.
No, sorry.
Consent agenda resolution note. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with one single motion. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by the certification of availability of funds, and any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to remove?
Mayor, I don't want to remove it, but I would like to make a comment on one.
Sure.
I might even shock you, okay?
I think that's tough to do, but I'd like to see it.
On 5424, I think for the sake of the residents who are either listening online or out here, it needs a transparency explanation. It seems like we're buying a new state contract for the fire vehicle, which is not that old for a fire chief, but there's a completely different reason. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of news about occupational cancer in firefighters. And we've had actually 2 of our firefighters come down with cancer that was determined by them fighting fires and the gases that they're inhaling and everything they've had. And it becomes a real concern. And all the other vehicles that we have a cab and then a back that's separate from the cab with a hood over it, so that the person driving it, sitting in it, is not inhaling all the stuff in the back of their truck. And the fire chief's cab does not. It's one continuous thing, so every time he's in there, unless you scrub it with everything you've got, every time you have a fire, he's breathing in some of the stuff from the fire, and it becomes very dangerous. And I certainly do not wish anyone to go through some kind of cancer on our behalf serving us. So that's why when I talked to him, he determined that he wanted to get a different kind of truck that had a separate cab and a separate back that would be enclosed and not even connected to the cab. It is expensive because it's a chief's cab, but his cab is in such good shape, his truck is in such good shape that he said he could either give it to the police department or the rec department, so that next year someone who wanted to buy a new truck or whatever would not have to do it, because it could still be used. But I think that in our minds, I don't care how much it costs, but health to me is number one in taking care of our employees and our residents. So I'm partly in charge of this. The only thing, Mayor, I don't know what we can do about this. I'm very concerned about the interest rate. If we pay it off in 5 years, the interest rate is 22.86%.
What are we talking about?
Talking about this pickup truck.
If we pay it off in 6 years, it's 26. If we pay it off in 4 years, it's barely 20%. I don't know.
The pickup truck?
No, it's not just the pickup truck. but the truck is a $70,000 truck when you add all the things that need to be.
What's the interest rate on the truck?
The interest rate, I said, if you pay it off in 5 years,
What's the interest rate that they have it as?
that's what I'm saying. It's 5 years, 6 years, or 4 years.
Where'd you get this?
That was sent to us.
This is max usage. So the truck is a lease.
Truck is a lease purchase. Now, I said, why not then try to put it in the bond?
That's not.
And he said, if we put it in the bond, the township would have to pay for it. He said, this way, the funds we get from the,
That's about the max usage of it. There's no,
he said,
because if it's a lease vehicles, even at $70,000, the interest rate is more or less about the usage of the vehicle and the, what's it called? The use of how they utilize it. They use a number. Were you gonna say something? They use a number to basically register to the vehicle, or they give mileage. It's more detailed than that. They're not paying 26% on the pickup
Where's
truck.
the
Right here.
percentage listed on that?
On the-
5 year, you have to pay 86,449 instead of 70-something.
If you if you buy out the lease, I'm sure.
But we are, we're leases. And we're using the money that we get from the fire marshal to pay for it, so it doesn't, it's not paid for.
Where are these figures?
That's what I said.
That was in the agenda that we had.
Who wrote this? This max usage figure.
What is it called? The differential, I think it's called.
That's not on my copy.
Do you know anything about this, Vince?
Is this amount?
Trying to find the figures for what we did, what type of interest rate we paid for previously.
Yeah. Because it's a lease, right?
Yeah, lease purchase for that, it's usually a 4 to 5 year.
Yeah.
And I know there's some additional and third costs, obviously, if you're finance, but I don't recall the numbers being that significant. And, actually, the pickup that I'm driving now is substantially more expensive than the pickup that we're looking at, obviously, it's far more equipment as opposed to the fire chief, but I know that that's kind of, it's part of the course that we go over the vehicle prices. But I can certainly do some research on what my percentage was that we,
Yeah, can you let us know?
those numbers.
Craig would know, but that's not on that number. I think 26% on the lease is outrageous. That's not where the rates are. Rates are like
And on the government
6-7%.
contract?
Huh?
And on the government contract?
And it's a government contract. I don't think that's accurate.
Well, I'm just saying, this is what was in our agenda.
There's handwritten figures on that copy you have, but that's not on,
That was my math,
Yeah.
subtracting the lease payment from the original percentage.
So you came up with the percentage?
I did it by using their numbers. Yes, I know how to do that.
Well, why didn't you say that in the beginning of this? You're like, this isn't our...
So, Ms. Berkeley,
Yes.
what was the percentage you came up with?
26.
26?
For 5 years, I came up with 22.86.
22.86 over 5 years, so that'd be substantially less each individual year. So the total interest, it would be approximately $16,000, $16,100. If you divide that by 5 years,
The total price would be $17,289.
that's $17,289.98 annually.
For 5 years.
So the total cost to the township over a 5-year period would be the 86,449.9. So the interest would then be the difference between the 86,449 and the 70,000, which,
Right. I subtracted the two, got something like 16-something, and then came up with 22.86.
that's over a 5-year period. So your interest, your annual interest is, and just using round numbers, 16,000 divided by 5 is about $3,200 a year. So it's substantially less than the 22% interest.
Well, but overall, that's what I'm talking about.
Right, but that's not how the interest is calculated.
Yeah.
We pay it off in 4 years if we save some money.
The interest is $3,200 a year, right? You okay with this?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up if there is a way we could kind of negotiate a lower interest rate.
This is being purchased in accordance with state contracts, so we don't have the ability to negotiate.
We don't for interest, okay. But I am heartily in favor of spending any money we need to make sure that our employees are cancer-free and healthy. Even though I'm a penny pincher.
Do we have a motion?
I move for the consent agenda.
Was that a motion?
I make a
Yes.
motion for the consent agenda.
I second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
We now open the meeting for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Remember, this is for comment only.
Good evening. Chris Hamilton, 16 St. Andrews Court. I'm also president of the school board, and I came here to thank the township, Public Works, for taking down our horrible skating rink. Looks much better out there, so just
Does
thank
way
you, everyone.
better. Thank you. I appreciate your acknowledgement. Any other comments? Do we have a motion to close?
Not closing.
Hmm?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do we have a motion to close on public comment?
Motion to close public comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dates to remember, next township meeting will be April 16th at 7 o'clock. Land Development Board meeting will be April 3rd at 7. Historic Commission, April 24th at 7. Recreation Committee meeting, April the 10th at 7. Take Your Child to Work Day, April the 25th. Are we participating as a township?
Yes.
We are?
Absolutely.
I like it. You guys should make sure you have some pretzels or something here. Huh? Not a bad idea. I'll see you guys on April 25th. Executive session, resolution 4/2024. Resolution authorizing the township committee and support staff to meet in private session and authorizing exclusion of the public from the portion of the meeting dealing with specific issues requiring non-public discussion. Attorney-client privilege, contract negotiation. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Have a good night.
Oh, we didn't even get